Welcome back to Court TV Live. We're following breaking news out of the state of Wisconsin. The Judge Hyland there has postponed the murder trial of Chandler Halderson after the defendant tested positive for COVID. Halderson is accused of killing and dismembering his parents in July of last year. The postponement announcement comes after 6 days of testimony and over 50 witnesses for the state. Prosecutors were planning to wrap up their case by Friday. The judge told the jury the earliest that they'd resume testimony would be Tuesday of next week. Let's go out to Dane County, Wisconsin, and bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chandler Painter live outside the courthouse. Good morning, Chandler. Busy morning there in Madison.
Hey, good morning, Ted. That's right. Well, this morning the judge met first with the parties outside the jury's presence to determine how to proceed once the jury does enter the courtroom for this delay. The judge said he wanted to delay this trial given the fact that Chandler Halderson must quarantine after this positive COVID test. The parties seem to be in agreement with that. In fact, Chandler Halderson zoomed in via audio into the courtroom during this hearing. He was present. Now, the defense had a concern, Ted, about whether or not when the jury entered, if the parties, the attorneys, should be in the will of the courtroom, given that the defendant would not be, and they didn't want the jury to know specifically that it was the defendant who tested positive, as it may prejudice him in this case. So the ultimate decision was that all the attorneys would leave the courtroom, zoom in to listen, and then this is what happened. Let's watch.
It's a little bit different in here today. Someone essential to the proceedings has tested positive, and as a result, everyone who was in the well of the courtroom on both sides have taken steps to quarantine under all the guidance provided by the CDC and our local authorities. I do not believe that you in any way would have been subject to exposure, but I do have to suspend our proceedings for a period of time because we cannot do any of our work through remote access through Zoom or any other means. It just is not feasible whatsoever. As a result, it is necessary to engage in a pause in this trial. Now, I learned of this but couldn't do anything last night to contact people to say this is happening because I needed to see you this morning in order to give you directions about what to do and to talk to you about continuing in your responsibilities. Otherwise, I would have been happy to not have you have to come in this morning since I knew we weren't going to be proceeding with evidence today. But I have prepared an order that I'll be giving you in writing and reading in a few minutes as far as what our intent is and what your obligations are. And I can let you know that there are two things that we're asking you to do, and it's one of them at least is mentioned in the order. We'll need to know that we have the way you want to be contacted. So if we can, before you go, confirm or get confirmation of phone numbers and emails, if you like email contacts, so that we can let you know precisely when we will be asking you to come back and resume. Secondly, I do have available through the county rapid in-home tests that you can take with you if you want to take one today and use it today or after a few days in case you have any concerns whatsoever. We want to provide that to you so that you have the ability to gain some assurance yourself that you haven't been exposed here. It's a step that everyone is taking out of precaution, of course, but we can't continue our proceedings, but we do intend to continue our proceedings as it's vitally important. I'll read to you the order that I drafted last evening. And as I said, you'll have a written copy of this. The trial in this case has to be suspended for a period of days. The court recognizes the incredible commitment and dedication of the jurors, as well as the other participants, during the past 6 days of this trial. The court also recognizes the jurors' commitment to curtailing not just their lives, but their contacts and communications with others and their exposure to news and media sources throughout the last 10 days. The court finds it necessary at this time to ask that the jurors continue that conduct and commitment. The trial in this case will reconvene no earlier than Tuesday, January 18. I'll remind you that Monday is Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. We're off. This building's closed on that date. It is possible that it will be necessary to reconvene on a later date. The jurors will be notified individually by the court no later than the end of business Friday, January 14, either by phone or email, as to the specific day they must return to court. Jurors are asked to confirm their phone number and email address. Jurors are also asked to contact the court if they themselves experience a health issue during the time the proceedings are suspended. Until they return to court in order to continue the trial, the jury is admonished to continue to not discuss the evidence or the case among themselves or with any other person, and to not search out any information about the case, parties, witnesses, or the law. Further, the jury is directed to not permit themselves to overhear the conversations of others regarding the case or to be exposed in any way to such information. Assuming the jury follows this order, this trial in this case can resume and conclude with justice and fairness to the defendant, the deceased victims and their families, and to the people of the state of Wisconsin. Folks, I know other colleagues have tried and have had to postpone or even completely reschedule trials, and I think that may be something that occurs further. I asked for 6 alternates because I was very concerned about you folks during this process. I hadn't anticipated that it could cause a delay as far as others, but there are essential persons connected to these proceedings, and we are all undergoing routine testing and monitoring of our health, and this is where we are at this point in time.
Now, Ted, after the jury was dismissed to go home, the attorneys returned inside the courtroom, outside the camera's presence. The judge did remark on trying to read the jurors' reaction to his news. He said it was hard to tell, but he felt it was a good one. For this jury, he also made clear that Mitchell Halderson was also listening in on the phone to the hearing this morning.
And the defendant in this case, so we know that he's the one that tested positive, obviously, wasn't the only one apparently over at the Dane County Jail that was tested or was positive.
That's right. In fact, the record numbers of COVID cases at the Dane County Jail here in Madison, Wisconsin was so high that the sheriff summoned the National Guard to assist in testing all 600 inmates at the county jail on Monday. Halderson, Chandler Halderson, the defendant, was one of those inmates tested, which resulted in this positive COVID test. Now he does have to quarantine, but it's been an issue that has garnered a lot of news attention in the local news here, Ted.
Yeah, and at this point, it is a wait and see. That the judge, as we just heard Judge Hyland saying, it's going to be Friday. They're going to have to pull the trigger on a start date, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of things that are being taken into account, including CDC guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. Interesting that the jurors will be going home with those in-home testing kits, and who knows where this could go. A juror may 2-3 days from now test positive, so I guess it's a real wait and see sort of feeling there on the ground.
Yeah, it really is, and the judge mentioned he selected 6 alternates for this purpose, and that's more jurors than we typically see, Ted, in a lot of trials. 6 just in case another juror does become ill. So we will have to see. He did say he will let the jurors know Friday what day to return next week. Of course, no earlier than Tuesday, likely Wednesday, to resume this case. Also interesting, Ted, neither party, the defense, did not ask for a mistrial in this case. They did put on the record that they were not going to seek a mistrial in this delay with the consent of their client, Chandler Halderson.
Yeah, that really raised a lot of eyebrows, because that one would think that would just be automatic, given maybe how they thought the trial was going. But the opposite. Definitely raised some eyebrows. All right, Chandler, stay put. We're going to continue to talk about not only what we're anticipating in the future of this trial, but we'll look back at some of the testimony. The state has gone 6 days of testimony and has brought on dozens of witnesses for this trial. They're very invested, and they articulated they were only a couple days away from finishing up their case in chief before the defendant tested positive. Again, if you're just joining us and expecting live testimony here on Court TV, it has all been halted because Chandler Halderson has tested positive for COVID-19. Jury told today to go home, and they'll contact him when they want them back. Be back right after this with more. Stay with us. This is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.